Alright you guys, well today I have for you this 2023 Acura Integra. We'll take you around this car, show you what it's all about. Really nice styling, to be honest. I really love what they did with this car. I love this little Acura stamp in the front bumper. I believe that's like a callback to the original Integra, but we'll keep going around it here. It is the A-Spec model. And yeah, just very nice, very unique styling to it. It does have dual exhaust. We'll check out this cargo area. This is actually a hatchback. As you can see, it's pretty practical back here, especially for a smaller car like this. You can also fold the seats down, a little bit hard to do from the cargo area, but as you can see, they just fold down flat. And yeah, it's pretty good space back here. You get another Integra stamp in the bumper right here, but we'll close up this trunk. It's pretty easy to close. And we'll try out these back seats. Just fold the seats back up. It's a little bit hard getting in here. This roof is really low. Close the door. So yeah, it is lacking a little bit in headroom back here, to be honest. It's not totally bad though, definitely not the worst I've been in. You do get enough foot space. It's decent back here. Not totally roomy, but I could live with it just fine. You don't get cup holders, surprisingly, back here. And not many features. You don't get vents or ports or anything like that. So it is just a little bit basic back here. But we'll hop out. I'll show you guys this engine really quick. All right, so this is the 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. This is borrowed from the Civic Si. It makes 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. Pretty decent numbers. Some might say it's a little bit underpowered for a modern sports sedan. This is basically a Civic Si, but with Acura styling and features. And I've seen this car receive some criticism. People seem to expect a little more from Acura than just a rebadged Civic Si, but we'll hop in this car. We'll talk more about that when we get this thing out on the road. All right, we'll start it up. It does have a cool Acura graphic right there. All right, and this interior is a really nice place to be. It's essentially the Civic interior, but you do get these really nice red leather seats. I like how these look a lot. Very easy controls. That was probably the first thing I noticed about this car. Like, these climate controls are just incredibly simple for a modern car. It's very refreshing. You just get temperature, fan speed, and your zone where the air comes out. Very simple, just 3 dials. There's no guesswork with anything. You do get your center screen right here. I complained about this in the new Honda Accord. It's not super customizable. It doesn't do any cool party tricks. I suppose that's not a big deal. It's not a huge complaint of mine, but I suppose a lot of the reason people like these screens is because they can do cool stuff. They can show maps. They can show all kinds of different information. This one, it's just not very customizable. If you change your drive mode, it does change the display a little bit, but that's about as customizable as it gets. But you do have comfort mode, normal mode, and sport mode. Very simple. I like that it doesn't have like 15 different drive modes like some cars. I think that's a little overkill. Really, just sport, normal, and comfort is all you need. You do have adaptive cruise control in here. You also get this center screen. This is, even though this is the A-Spec model, it's more kind of like a mid-level trim. You still get the kind of basic screen in here. If you upgrade to the tech package, you get a much bigger screen, but this is just kind of the ordinary screen. It just does your basic stuff. You know, you can show your music, your Bluetooth, your phone. You can change your car settings. That's about it. It looks decent. You also get Apple CarPlay in here. Pretty standard screen. Nothing too fancy for a modern car. You do get a sunroof, which is nice to have. Just an ordinary sunroof. I like seeing that. You do get your shifter. This is the CVT. I couldn't get the manual. I would have probably preferred the manual. I think that's just necessary for a car like this. But the CVT actually isn't too bad. We'll talk about more of that later. You do get your typical Honda backup camera. It looks decent resolution. Could be a little bit better though, I think. You do get your brake hold for stop and go traffic, and you do get your electronic parking brake. You also get auto start stop in here. You get a USB-A port and a car charger outlet. You do get these 2 cup holders and a pretty tiny center console, as you can see. And yeah, I like this interior, you know, it feels solid, it feels well put together. I like how these vents look. Everything's just very simple, very easy. A nice change of pace from a lot of cars today. But we'll get this thing out on the road and we'll talk about how it drives here. I'll start off in normal mode for right now. All right, let's pull out of here. Okay, so first impressions on this Acura Integra is it's pretty peppy, surprisingly. Feels nice and quick. I wasn't really expecting that from 200 horsepower. But yeah, the power comes on pretty quickly. It's all very linear, very seamless. Definitely a lot peppier than I was expecting. I like this car more than I thought I would. Has that nice low-end torque that you'd expect a turbo to have. Brakes are really good. Brake pedal is pretty sharp. The brakes respond fairly immediately. About a quarter of the way into the pedal travel, they bite down really nicely. Very nicely weighted steering also. Typically, a lot of Hondas have very light steering, but this one is actually, it's weighted up nicely. It's very direct, it's very sharp. Pull out onto this road here. Try out the power. All right. It's not as satisfying when you go to floor it like that. The CVT, it does kind of sap some of the fun out of this car. But still just a very peppy, lively engine. Very responsive. Even the CVT, you know, it is a very responsive CVT, which I do have to give them credit for. You hear CVT and just think it's going to be awful, but this one actually really isn't that bad. It's pretty responsive, it's pretty linear, it's nicely sport tuned for a CVT, which I wasn't quite expecting. Like even in a little like slowdown like this, I go to tap the gas, it picks up nicely. There is a little delay though. Still an occasional delay when you go to step on it or when you need some extra power. So yeah, I think I would have preferred a traditional automatic for sure, but this, as far as CVTs go, this is definitely one of the better ones for sure. I do want to talk about the steering a little bit more. As I said, it's very firm for a Honda. It's very responsive. It's like nice and playful steering. I definitely like that. The steering weight, it does feel a little bit artificial, like kind of artificially heavy, just a bit. But I still really like it. I think it gives this car a much more sort of dense, solid feel on the road compared to like other Hondas that just have that really loose steering. This car feels a lot more solid and heavy and just planted on the road. This ride quality is pretty firm, it's pretty choppy, but it doesn't like beat you up really. You definitely can tell when you're driving over bumps and things like that, but it's still decently cushioned to my surprise. It definitely has that sporty, like Subaru WRX kind of choppy feel, but in this car it's honestly pretty well controlled for having such a sport tuned ride and suspension. The road noise is a little bit loud in here. These tires kind of make a lot of noise. That could just be this car specifically, but I did notice there is some road noise in here. But your outward visibility is pretty good. A clear view out of the front windshield. The hood is a little bit blocky, but no big deal. I can see over it just fine. And yeah, these pillars are really thin. These mirrors are big. Back window is a little bit small just because of this car's like hatchback design. But everywhere else, I mean, it's like really easy to see out of this car. You do get this auto start stop feature, which it kicks on pretty quickly, honestly, but I think I'll just turn it off. I also like how between sport, normal, and comfort, I can definitely notice a difference between the modes. But we'll try sport mode. I noticed the throttle gets a lot more responsive, as does the CVT. It just puts the engine right where it needs to be to make the most power. Steering gets nicely weighted. It's not like some cars where you just can't notice a difference. There is definitely some differences between the modes. I'll try this corner. And the Integra handles beautifully. I'm really impressed with how well this car handles. We'll try some more corners up ahead, but for being front-wheel drive, this car handles very, very well. This doesn't have the adaptive damper system. You can only get that in the A-Spec tech package. This is just like the normal suspension, but it still does a really good job, to be honest. I love that torque from this engine. And a CVT, it does put the power down nicely, even though I'm sure we'd all prefer a regular automatic or manual, of course. The CVT, it still puts the power down nicely. Alright, but let's try some corners. It's very flat around the corner. The chassis feels really solid around the turn. Has that nice like kind of go-kart feel to it that you'd want in a car like this. Try these other turns. Yeah, it does a really good job. I'm really impressed with it. Steering is nice and direct, nice and heavy. I like that exhaust sound too. It actually sounds pretty sporty. This engine doesn't sound the best in the higher revs, I noticed. In the higher revs, it sounds kind of grainy. But in the lower revs, when you're just like feathering the gas, it sounds pretty good. Try some more of these corners. And yeah, you know, it's really good. This car can definitely compete with like the GTI or the Hyundai Veloster, cars like that. I think it does feel a little bit heavier than say a GTI. GTI is probably going to feel slightly more nimble in the turns. This still kind of feels like a bigger sedan sort of car, but still a really good job, honestly. Still very sporty, very fun. You can throw it around just fine. Definitely a lot better handling than your typical car. This isn't just like a Honda Civic, you know, it's definitely a lot more sporty than that. And to be honest, I'm surprised that this car is built on a Civic chassis, because it really does feel a lot sportier through the corners than that. Feel nice and low to the ground in this. This bumper actually scrapes a bit on curbs or things like that, or speed bumps. You can definitely tell it scrapes just a little bit. This car definitely is lower to the ground. All right, get this thing on the highway here. Yeah, I'm just very impressed with that handling. Has that nice like limitless kind of feel to it. But unfortunately, we get stuck behind people like this. Good passing power, as you can see. Really responsive. But we'll take this exit here. Get back on the highway. try out some power. Alright, wow, this thing really does move when you want it to. And the brakes slow you down really nicely. We'll try our off-ramp here. Alright. Yeah, really good handling, like good control. Yeah, I'm a lot more impressed with this Integra than I thought I would be. Alright, you guys. Well, that is the Acura Integra. I think I will end the video in here. Yeah, definitely a nice, impressive little sports sedan. And it's not like it's extremely pricey. This A-Spec model, stickers for around $33,000 new. And that's pretty affordable for a sports sedan. I think we'll park it right here. Nothing much else to really say here. It's a nice sporty interior, nice peppy engine, very sporty handling. Maybe not quite on that level of like GTI or Golf R, WRX, but it's still like definitely competitive with those cars in a lot of ways. Interior is nice and luxurious, but also very simple, very easy to figure out. And yeah, I can see how this car has a purpose. I think it definitely has a place. I think an Acura version of the Civic Si is definitely something people would look for. Sometimes people want something that looks a little bit more upmarket and has a little more luxury features. And this car definitely does deliver in terms of handling, in terms of speed. It's nothing that's going to be totally crazy. You can still get around cars if you're in a hurry or something, but it's not going to be anything like crazy when you accelerate. It has a legitimately sporty feel to it. Only weak point is the CVT, but even that, you know, the CVT is pretty responsive. It's pretty good. But yeah, I think we'll shut it off and we'll hop out. All right, thanks for watching.